Today is December 5th, 2018. I just want to share something personal that happened with me. I just cried. You know. It's not tears of sadness. I cried because I connected to myself in a way that I wasn't expecting. And so when I came out and I was crying and I said thank you to Spirit because I got a $10 coupon, and I said, oh, let me get some underwear. It was from Lane Bryant. And then of course I ended up getting more than that. I got socks and stuff like that. And you know, I knew I was gonna see some signs or something for today. And so I come in the car and as I was reconciling with myself with what I was feeling, and I'm listening to this song, and I can't remember the name of the artist. I should remember her, right? Yeah, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Everything is Everything. And I didn't even realize that she called Nefertiti's name in this. It's just crazy, you know. You can ask for a better sign or message from the universe. And I don't want to miss the part where I played it back again, you know. I don't want to miss the part where she calls the name of Nefertiti, that I've always declared that's who I am. And it's like another part of me is coming into another full circle in a way. You know, everything is everything. Everything that has been created throughout history. And how much does it take to accepting of yourself, you know? How much does it take for you to accept all of yourself, every single part of you and what makes you up, and not letting anyone change that about you, you know? And that it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks. All that matters is what you think. I've always said that, you know. It's one thing when you know it and you talk it, but then when you're living it, that's a whole different story. It's a whole different thing happening here, you know. So I'm taking, you see, it's coming up now. See, she's called Nefertiti. Everything is everything. And so think about what makes up you, everything that makes up you, you know. And so I'm gonna tell you what happened earlier today. I was in listening to a conversation that was transpiring between myself and Kelly. Hi, Kelly. And when I was listening to her, I was hearing her words, and she and I, we have long conversations, like 20 minutes, 21 minutes recording in the WhatsApp. And just taking a deep breath, because it just feels so emotional for me today. It feels so emotional, and it makes sense because it's a new moon, you know. I was planning to do a live, but whatever I was going to talk about to do with the masculine energy, it's like I'm just pulled to speak from my heart and not what I wrote earlier. So I will be doing another live to talk about, I don't know if I'm doing it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you know. I just go with the flow. And so when I was listening to what she was saying, I was hearing her words, but then I was feeling something in my heart, and I started to think of my mom. Then I started to think about my brother, because she was mentioning about, you know, how she's grateful to not be homeless. You know, she's with her mom, and I remembered what I went through being homeless for 2 months this year. I mean, I wasn't on the street sleeping, thank goodness, but it was very traumatizing for myself and my children. And then I started thinking about my mom. Then I started thinking about my brother, how I ended up staying with my brother and healing so much things with him, you know, because I practically raised him with my mom. And then so I started thinking about what a lovely young man he's grown up to be. And then I said, my God, he's so much like my mom in a different way. And I just feel so proud of him, and I know my mom is proud of him. And so then I started thinking of my mom and thinking, wow, if she was here, I know she would be so different, you know, compared to my other relatives that have not really been in my space too much, but I understand why. And so I started thinking about my mother and who she is, what she represents, you know, in my life, you know, because she's the one that makes up who I am. Who I've always been, you know, how she is, how she speaks, you know, same thing. She's full of love, you know, and she's still here. And then I said, wow, I said, I know my mom is proud of me too, and it doesn't matter what age we turn, you know. So anyway, I started to get emotional. I started to cry and just feeling as if I've accomplished more than I could ever dream of because of everything that I've endured throughout this year. And so I'm gonna cry again because it's just so emotional for me. And so anyway, so I just thought about how much I know my mother accepts me, you know, because we all desire to feel accepted by others in that, oh, whatever you're doing, you know, am I doing the right thing? And is this person, is this one gonna accept me? Is that one gonna accept me? Or what if, you know, you have the greatest love showing up in your space, and so many of us think that, well, I don't deserve this because it's too much that comes from that person, because we're so used to having less and being judged by one another. So anyway, I go further as I went to the Lane Bryant to get my gift, because according to the letter that came in the mail, it says, go pamper yourself and get your gift. And I was like, okay. So it was $10 off, and of course I was going to get myself some underwear, and next thing you know, I get some socks, and then next thing you know, I'm getting some leggings, and I was like, oh, isn't it typical, going for one thing and then coming out with more? And so when I went in there, I started thinking to myself, I said, Dad, I might as well get up the size of the underwear, because I put on some weight on my body. And, you know, I spoke about in my last live on Facebook about how we love ourselves for our flaws and all. And so I went and I got it. And the ladies behind the counter, they were way bigger than me. I mean, like really way bigger than me. And they looked beautiful. And, you know, it didn't matter what race they were or how big they were. You know, I don't know what, I didn't tap into their feelings to how they were feeling inside. But I overheard when one of the cashier, when she said, you know, she had big breasts and, you know, and stuff too. And she said, I overheard her say to the woman, she said, you know, I'm okay with knowing that I'm just going to be in the store, you know, in terms of the fact, not because she works there, but that she's always going to get her clothing and stuff from in there, because she's a big girl. And she said, even if I take off weight, it might be a long time before I can slip into anything else. And I said, you know, I said to myself, I said, you know something? I said, a lot of times there's so much emphasis, especially with females, on how their body should look, and because of what society places on what sexy is, and, you know, and how far do you take it, and, oh, you better take off weight because it's not good, it's not healthy, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but some of us are just made naturally big bone, big breasts, big hips. And so I got an upside up in my underwear, and I'm being personal here. And I said to myself, I said, well, it might be too big, but then I know the size that I really wear. And then it's not like the size I wear now is too small, but maybe I just want it a little bit more comfortable. And, you know, it's not like you can go try it on and bring it back. So I just surrendered to it and said, okay, I'm just going to get the upsize to it, whatever. And the young lady said to me, she says, oh, it'll fit tight, or it may not fit tight, it'll just fit just right, whatever. And so I then said to myself, I said, you know what? There's always been so much emphasis on how we feel about our bodies and what we need to do with it and all that. And I left out of there with a different perspective, even more than I've ever before. And then, of course, I had posted a joke on Facebook, and it was kind of like a dry joke, but it made me laugh. And I think about my own laughter and what I joke about and what it does for me, my own sense of humor. And so I then, and it had to do with these young boys must have put some weed inside of the thing what they do in the Catholic Church, and they got arrested, and then they got let go, whatever. They're altar boys, and so it was a prank that they pulled, and I said, that's my boys, you know, because anything that needs anything to do with radical behavior, or anything that, oh, you shouldn't do that, better not do that, I love those things. I love that shit. Why? Because it's like, that's the rebel in me, you know, and I like when things are done differently. And I love when things are done differently because it shows who you are and what you're becoming and your own soul expression. And so as I was exiting out of the store and I was reflecting on what I was experiencing with these two females, they had no idea that I was just observing still. And then I said to myself, I said, you know what? I just love my body and I love myself for flaws and all. And I'm like, what flaws do I have? And I have some. I was teased growing up to do it my forehead. I was teased. I was always the last girl on the line because I was the tallest girl. You know, I had big feet, you know, and all of that stuff. I went through that, you know. And I never forget that the two main boys that used to bully me at the end of the time when I was graduating from elementary school, they came up to me and they told me that they liked me after all, that all this time they liked me. And I was so surprised and taken back. And I'm like, what? Ew. You know, because that time in school, I wasn't thinking about no boys. But what it shows is that think about when someone has ever judged and criticized you for who you are, what you love, what you don't love. And really, it's their own insecurities. And a lot of time we take in other people's insecurities and accept what they say and accept what they do and thinking that we have to take it on just like them. And so what I'm saying is that you don't have to do that. You don't have to take on what someone else says or how they feel about you. It really, really has to do with how you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself, and that it doesn't matter what or how anybody else has led their own life. So as I walked out of the mall, I said to myself, I love my big hips. I love my ass. I love my breast, whether it's medium size or big size, just the way I am. And I love my sense of humor. I love my sense of humor. I said, even if it's warped, even if it's crazy, I just love that, all of myself. And then I said, I choose to attract and to continue to attract someone who is going to love me with every part of me to who I am, and that they love themselves enough to also accept what they're receiving from me as I am also giving it back to them. And then I started to cry again because it brought me into an even deeper level of acceptance of myself. And you know, sometimes we think that we really don't need anyone's permission, but then it's like how we take ourselves deeper into the acceptance of self and how we take ourselves deeper into the acceptance of others, that even if they don't love themselves enough or they don't love anything about themselves, that we understand and allow them to feel it too. And so, you know, as I stated, when I remembered my brother in when he was a little baby and growing up, and he didn't grow up with his father as much, but his father's presence was there. And so my mom and I raised him, and I raised him more than my mother did. And to see him now that he's in his 30s and how he's evolved so much from his soul and what he has become, and not just saying he's become a man, because you know, it's so much the releasing of these labels of what it takes to be a man or what it takes to be a woman. It's about how we bring that balance of ourselves being in that feminine and masculine space. And I see my mom in him, and I see myself in my mom, and that her soul still is within me and her soul is still within my brother. And so when I see how proud I am of him, and then I see how proud I am of myself, then I know that she's always here. And so everything to who we are and what we're becoming really goes deep into ourselves, into what we accept. And that no matter what, the divine loves you just the way you are. And that means that you're to love yourself so deeply, so profoundly. And when you take it and widen that love with how you feel, and you express it outwardly and inwardly, this is what completes that circle. And that's what completes that connection that you have to yourself and to someone else. So, you know, hearing that song that I played before, Where Love Takes Us. Love knows no bounds. Love knows no distance. And it's everlasting, ever encompassing. Right now, there is so much that we are transcending when it comes to how we connect to each other. And that includes those that are in the male bodies. And you've been taught not to feel. You've been taught not to express. You've been taught that you must man up and be a man, you know, be strong. And that if you love, you keep it inside, you know, and don't say anything. And, you know, even if you feel something towards someone, don't let it out too much, because then you're demasculating yourself. But I tell you that I know that so much is shifting, that now's the time to speak your truth, live your truth, walk your truth. And that means that you are an expression in every way, you know, that even if you're in a vulnerable space with it, that is your strength. It is not your weakness. It is at a place where that even when you are empowering yourself, that it's about who you are within your strength and your weakness that makes up all of you. You see? And that, you know, how ironic that Sade's song, Love is Stronger Than Pride. And that means that if you're feeling love in your heart for someone, that even if you are in fear of rejection, or if you're in fear of what may or may not be accepted, that it's okay. Because we can't hide these feelings any longer. We can't. It's there. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be in existence, because as I stated before, love knows no distance. Love knows anything else but what it is. That anything else, the opposite that exists with love, of course, which is in place for you to see what love is, it is always going to remain present. It's going to supersede anything else that is not of love. And anything else of love is still love, because it's just how you view it, how you see it. And love is not about sacrificing either. Love is not about giving all of your goods away. And love is not where you're holding grudges and, you know, all that stuff that doesn't serve you, and what someone tells you what it should be or how it should be. What's always important is that you follow your heart, what your heart is speaking, you know, because our souls are speaking more than the words that are spoken, and the words carry vibration and what or how love should show up, you know, because love may not necessarily come knocking on the door. It's just present always, you know. It's just, do you feel it? Are you recognizing it? Do you see the beauty of it and what it does for you? And so, you know, as I walk through this shadow element of what love was before, it's no longer there. It's now different right now for me and how I feel, and where I'm connecting now to who I'm connected to, that there's no distance with this. Not even based on whether you see the person or touch the person, but just knowing that it's ever present, you know, ever present, everlasting. You know, I may not have the physical phone to speak to my mom, but she's here. She's here, and the presence of her love is everlasting. The presence of the love of who I love is everlasting. And nothing can separate it. Nothing, nor death, nor powers, nor principalities. And even the love that I have of myself is also everlasting. So keep on keeping on and speak your truth. Walk your truth and live your truth, and know that it is everlasting. That whether the soul has been here 3,000 years ago, your soul is in existence in all dimensions, in all time, and all space. And so it is. I will be back. Peace.